Okay, starting back over. Here we go with the hamburgers. Got the local hamburger shop sold a combined total of 396 burgers and cheeseburgers. Number of cheeseburgers sold was 2 times the number of hamburgers sold. So how many hamburgers were sold on Friday? There's actually 2 ways to work this, and it just kind of depends on which way you see it. Um, I think it's just easier to label. If you're going to let hamburgers, let that be H, right? Okay, so then you got cheeseburgers. I can't spell. Cheeseburgers. Okay. Don't call it C. Look up here and see what they defined it as. Combined total of the, what did it say? The number of cheeseburgers, which is what we're interested in, was what? 2 times the number of hamburgers. Well, we just called hamburgers H. So if it's 2 times, that would be 2H, correct? So let's see if we can go back and write an equation now. Go back to the first sentence. Local hamburger shop. Can't say that. Hamburger shop. Sold a combined total of, so combined total, I'm going to say H plus 2H equals 396. Okay. And then it just says how many hamburgers were sold. Well, we're going to be sitting pretty because we're solving for H, and that is hamburgers. So that's going to give me 3H equals 396. Divide that out. So that's going to be 3 goes in there, there would be a 1, there'd be a 3, and there'd be a 2. So 132 hamburgers. We do not have to find out how many cheeseburgers. They didn't ask about that. They only ask about hamburgers, and that's what we called H. So we're good. Now, this one says solve for N. Okay, so we want to move everything else to the other side. You just have to obey the rules of algebra when you're doing it. So you want to take the term that's attached. If N is right here, then this term that's attached needs to move. It's attached with a plus sign, and it is positive. So when he goes over, it's going to be negative. So since it's negative, if I were you, I would start with D, and then I would just put the 4M at the back end and use the negative as the, or your subtraction as the connector, so you don't lead off with a negative sign. It doesn't really matter. You could do negative 4M divided by D, and it's the same thing. Now, I still don't have N by itself. I've got one more thing. I've got to get rid of the 9. Well, over here, do the whole side by 9. So it's the entire left side by 9 and the entire right side divided by 9. These cancel, and I got N equals, and all I'm doing is rewriting. I'm not doing anything other than that. Just trying to make it look nice. There's your answer. Okay, moving on. Rewrite the expression by factoring out y plus 3. So this lets you know right here, this review is randomized. It's taking all the stuff that we've covered and it's mixing it all up. You're going to have the same effect whenever you get on your final. It's going to be all mixed up, so don't expect it to be in the order that we covered it. Factoring means they want you to use the grouping method here. So they want you to factor out this group. Y plus 3 is in both terms. So if you will pull out the y plus 3, remember what is left in the other binomial is your coefficient here and your coefficient here. Now that's kind of weird because what's in front? It looks like just a negative, but if there's not a number, squeeze yourself in a 1, and then you can take those 2 and make yourself a binomial out of it. And so your entire answer is this right here. That is the factored form. That's all you had to do. Okay, so going to the next one, it says graph the inequality below on the number line. Well, you always want to make sure your variable is on the left, and then use your inequality like an arrow. So that thing is looking like this. So you come in and you go the way it points, all right? So it's at -6, so you want to like put a little bubble here at -6, and we are shading to the left is where that thing is pointing. It does not have the little line under it. That's when you get the solid dot, is when you have these. If you have the open dots, or the without the line, it's open. So make sure you're paying attention to your little details whenever you get on Alex. Okay, so this one says solve the inequality for u. So -2 minus 6u less than or equal to -32. Now, if you'll remember, the only thing different between equations and inequalities in the solving process is when you multiply and divide by a negative, you have to reverse your inequality or flip it over, turn it the other direction. Yeah, there's other differences. Equations don't have infinite solutions and all, but in the solving process, that's the only difference. Okay, put your little line there where your inequality is. Just don't forget that that's less than or equal to. We're solving for, what is that, u? Mine looks like a y, but add 2 to both sides. That's going to be a negative 6 on u, less than or equal to, and that will be a negative 30. Okay, now please, please, please show your steps, because showing your steps is going to should help trigger your brain to remember things. Because I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write divide by negative 6. So you're putting that sign down there. It's everything that's in front of that u. An alarm should have went off in your brain because we put a negative in the bottom. And when you put a negative in the bottom, this thing turns around. So your 6's cancel, your negatives cancel, and you've got u. It flips over, and that's going to be a positive 5. It didn't say graph, so we're just solving. Okay, come over here to this next one, and I'm just going to rewrite it to get started. Same principle. Now we'll say this, on an equation, we really don't care which side the x is on, because it's just equal, but on an inequality, it is more important for your variable to be on the left, especially if they ask you to graph. I know this one doesn't ask for that, but having the habit of putting your variable on the left is a good one. So I'm purposely going to move the 4y over here, even though that creates a negative. So I'm going to have negative 7y minus 32 is less than 24. All right. Adding 32, that's going to be negative 7y is less than, what is that, 56? Now, I've got to come in and divide through by negative 7. Oh, ding, 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 alarm went off in the bed, in your head, in your brain. You want to flip the inequality when you're dividing by negative. So the negatives go out, the 7's go out, and you've got a y, flip it over, and that's going to be a negative 8. It doesn't say graph, so I wouldn't worry about it. But just know that you would need an open bubble at negative 8, you would go to the right. On the one over here on the left, you would need a closed bubble on positive 5 and go to the right. All right, so this one says graph the line, so we're upgrading. Hopefully you remember when you're graphing a line, slope-intercept form is the form that is most useful. So try to get it y equals mx plus b, so solve for y is what needs to be triggered in your brain. Solve for y, most beneficial thing you can do. So the x part needs to go over. Typically we put that right next to the equal sign and then just kind of bump the number over. So this tells me my y-intercept is right here. So that's y-intercept. So I'm going to get on the y-axis and I'm going to a positive 4. So y-axis, positive 4, right here. Okay, so that's my starting spot. Then I'm going to use my slope, which is the m value, and I'm going to write it as a fraction because remember slope is rise over run. So it tells me up and down, and then we're always going to go to the right. So since that's a positive 2 over 1, that is up 2, and we're going to do right 1. So from the dot that I made, I'm going to go up 2, right 1. And you can repeat that as many times as you want to. Doesn't matter. But then, you know, eventually you got to draw your line in there. Okay. And that's it. All right. So we're going to graph the line x equals negative 8. Well, that's a little weird because we're expecting x's and y's to graph a line. If you only see one variable, that means it's either horizontal or vertical. That's when it's one variable. Okay, now, you don't have to remember which one's which. What you can remember is this thing says x. So get on the x-axis. X-axis is down here. And go to negative 8 on that axis. I do believe it's right there. I'm having a bad glare on the board. Can't see very well. We're supposed to go opposite of the x-axis. So since the x-axis is going side to side, our line needs to go up and down. So x equals is a vertical line. So if you're wanting to memorize that, horizontal is y equals. All right. Okay, the equation of a line is given below. 2x minus 4y equals negative 12. Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and then use them to graph the line. Okay, so let's just copy it over just so that we're ready to work with it. Now, there was a little trick that we did for intercepts. Intercepts is when it hits the axis. And when you hit the axis, one of them, whichever axis you're running into, that value is going to be 0. So if we're looking for the x-intercept, our rule is that y has to be equal to 0. So we can take what our equation is and we can use that cover-up method. Basically, you just cover up the part that has y in it. Now this is y, because y'all can't see my hand. I am putting a 0 in the place of y. So what's going to happen is that little part right here is going to totally disappear, and I'm just going to get 2x equals negative 12. It disappears because 0 times anything is 0. Now come in here and divide through by 2, so x is negative 6. Now we are talking about ordered pairs, so when they ask you for this, I'm assuming, I may be wrong, but I'm assuming that Alex is wanting an ordered pair for your solution. So that would be negative 6 and 0, because you want the x part first and the y part second. So that's what I would type in for x-intercept. Y'all will have to play with the computer and see exactly what it wants, because I'm not sure. All right, when it asks for the y-intercept, you're going to let x be 0. So go through the same process. You can do 2 times 0 minus 4y equals negative 12. Well, that front part, that's gone. Don't lose your negative now, because you got to come in here and divide through by negative 4. So that's going to be a negative 12 divided by negative 4 is a positive 3. End it with an ordered pair. The y is 3, so he's in the back end. The x was 0, he's in the front. So those are the two values that I would put over here. So x-intercept, I'm just assuming that that's what they're wanting is like that. They may just want negative 6 and 3. But plot those points. X-intercept on the x-axis, go to negative 6. On the y-axis, go to a positive 3. Well, if this is 2 and that's 4, they don't have a number there, but it's kind of, by deduction, you can figure out where it is. And then you just want to draw a line through them. And you're done. Okay, let's see here. Fill in the blanks below. Find the slope of the line passing through these 2 points. Okay, well, you've got to know the slope formula, because I can't tell you come test time. You've got to know that slope is rise over run. That's not technically the formula, that's the definition. The formula is the difference in the y's. That's how you get rise. Y's is rise, so remember y's goes up. Run is the side to side, so we do x2 minus x1. Okay, and remember, order doesn't matter, you just have to be consistent. Whichever one you start with in the top, you have to start with in the bottom. So just give it a look. I actually like the look of starting with 3. So if I start with 3, I would have 3 minus a negative 1. Well, if I start with 3 in the top, then I have to start with his buddy in the bottom. So negative 2 minus a negative 2. Okay, well, that's going to be 3 plus 1 up top, and then this is going to be negative 2 plus 2 in bottom. Well, that gives me a 4 over 0. Uh-oh. If you type that in your calculator, it's going to start screaming error at you. If you remember that thing I showed you, it's okay to have 0 in top. It is not okay to have 0 in bottom. So this is this is undefined with 0 in the bottom. So that's what you would need to type is undefined. All right, now when we do the next one, let's see if I can get this in on the time period. We're going to subtract your y, so that would be negative 4 minus a negative 4. It doesn't really matter which one I start with, so let's just say this was my first one. So that means I've got to do 9 minus 4 in the bottom. Well, that gives me negative 4 plus 4 in top. 9 minus 4 is just 5. So I get a 0 in top. 0 in top is perfectly okay, and if you type it in your calculator, you just get 0. So type that in, you should be good. All right, we'll keep going in the next video.